Have you ever looked around and felt like everything that once made sense suddenly became foreign to your soul? The faces you once recognized, now distant. The dreams you once chased, now hollow. The noise of the world, now unbearable. You start to feel like a stranger in your own story. And silently, you whisper to yourself, "What is happening to me?" Chosen one, you are not losing your mind. You are remembering your soul. When the applause no longer excites you, when the music no longer moves you, when your plans begin to crumble and the people begin to fade, this is not punishment. This is the hand of heaven rewriting your identity. You're not crazy. You are awakening. You are standing at the edge of an old world that can no longer contain your light. Everything familiar begins to dissolve because you are no longer meant to fit into the shape you once called yourself. The ego calls it death, but heaven calls it rebirth. Your isolation is not exile, it is consecration. The divine is separating you, not to destroy you, but to reveal you. Every chosen one must walk this narrow valley, where everything external fades, and all that remains is the whisper of God, echoing inside the chambers of your being. And in that sacred silence, the false you dies, and the true you begins to breathe again. This path will feel lonely. You will look around and see emptiness, where once there was noise and celebration. You will wonder if you've lost your purpose, your people, your mind. But listen closely. This silence is not a void. It is the voice of God calling you home. He is saying, "My beloved, you have danced long enough in the noise of this world. Come apart for a while. Be still and know me again. You are not forgotten. You are being refined. You are not fallen behind. You are being aligned. You are not going mad. You are going inward to meet the one who has always been within." As we begin this sacred journey together, I want you to breathe and let go. Let go of the noise. Let go of the stories. Let go of the opinions that told you you had to be someone to be loved. You were chosen, not because you were perfect, but because your soul remembers what perfection truly is. This is not the end of you. This is the unveiling of you. In the coming moments, we will walk through the sacred terrain of isolation, silence, and divine remembrance. We will uncover the hidden beauty of what feels like collapse and find the eternal presence that was never lost. So, as we dive into this journey, like, subscribe, and share this message so that others who are wandering through their own silence may find the same light that now calls to you. This message is not just for you. It is for every chosen one who has been misunderstood, forgotten, and called crazy for hearing the music of heaven in a world that only listens to noise. So take a deep breath, beloved soul. The storm that once frightened you was never sent to destroy you. It was sent to awaken you. The isolation you feel is not your punishment. It is your preparation. And the silence you now sit in is not emptiness. It is the sound of God reintroducing you to your true self. Welcome home, chosen one. You are not crazy. You are awakening. Chapter 1. The silence before the storm. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when the ground beneath them begins to tremble, not in the physical world, but within the unseen chambers of their soul. The routines that once brought comfort start to feel heavy and meaningless. The relationships that once felt eternal begin to dissolve in silence. The passions that once burned bright flicker into quiet embers of disinterest. And you wonder, what's wrong with me? Why can't I feel what I used to feel? But there is nothing wrong with you. Heaven has simply decided that it is time for the false world within you to fall apart. The storm has not yet come, but you can already hear its distant hum. In the hollow places of your being, you are standing at the threshold of divine disorientation, the moment when your spirit whispers, This cannot be all that I am. And everything that was built on the illusion of control must now crumble, so the truth can be born. This is the silence before the storm, where the old world begins to crack, under the pressure of the light within you, that refuses to stay hidden any longer. The whisper of disconnection. It begins subtly. The songs you loved no longer move you. The laughter of friends feels distant and hollow. You stand in rooms full of people and feel more alone than ever. The plans you made months ago no longer make sense. You start canceling things. You start disappearing quietly from the circles that once defined you. And somewhere deep inside, a whisper begins to echo. Something is changing. At first, you fight it. You try to resuscitate old joys. You replay old memories. You chase old comforts. But nothing fits anymore. The disconnection grows louder until it can no longer be ignored. Beloved chosen one, you are not broken. You are being reconfigured. You are being pulled away from the noise that once numbed you, so that you can hear the quiet hum of your soul, remembering its true rhythm. This is divine disconnection, a holy recalibration that feels like loss, but is truly love. The hollowing. There comes a point when everything external ceases to satisfy you. You may look around and see the same house, the same work, the same people, but something inside you feels empty, as though someone quietly emptied your heart while you slept. You wake up with a strange longing, a yearning that no food, no music, no conversation can fill. It is not depression, though it may mimic its shadows. It is not madness, though the mind cannot make sense of it. It is God removing the clutter that kept you from hearing Him. The hollowing is sacred. It is the vacuum that makes room for light. In this space, you begin to question everything. Your purpose, your identity, your beliefs. And in that questioning, your old self trembles because it senses its end is near. But fear not. You are not being emptied to be left barren. You are being hollowed so that heaven can fill you with truth. The invitation of stillness. When the noise dies down, the silence can feel unbearable. The chosen one sits in that quiet room, staring at nothing, hearing everything. The mind starts to panic. What's next? What do I do? Why can't I feel God? But the Spirit gently whispers, be still. Don't run. Don't fix. Just be, because it is here in the stillness that the voice of God finally becomes audible. He speaks not through thunder, but through the pause between your thoughts, not through visions, but through the peace that begins to bloom when you surrender your need to control. Stillness is the secret gate between confusion and clarity. If you can endure the silence, you will hear the truth. You are never alone. You are simply surrounded by noise. And now, the divine calls you apart. To remember what you are, not a performer, not a name, not a story, but an eternal spark of the infinite, wearing human form, the moment of surrender. There comes a day when you stop fighting the silence. You stop chasing answers. You stop asking why it had to be this way. You simply breathe, and in that breath, you realize that maybe this is not the end of your story. Maybe this is the beginning of your true one. In that moment, heaven smiles, because every chosen one must reach this sacred breaking point. The moment when the ego can no longer sustain the illusion that it is in control. And in that surrender, the first light of awakening enters, not as fireworks, not as revelation, but as a quiet knowing that everything, even the loss, even the isolation, was part of a divine design to bring you back to yourself. This is the silence before the storm, the sacred pause before transformation. If you are here, it means the old world is fading, and the new one is about to be born through you. Do not fear the stillness. Do not curse the emptiness, for it is in this silence That God whispers the ancient truth. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am within you. The chosen one does not run from the silence. They listen to it until it becomes their sanctuary. Chapter 2. When the familiar fades. There comes a moment, chosen one, when everything you once called home no longer feels like home at all. The conversations that once thrilled you now feel shallow. The goals you once obsessed over now feel distant. Even the people you love most begin to drift away like clouds. Slowly, silently, inevitably, you try to hold on, but their hands slip through yours, like sand through an open palm. You think you're losing them, but you're not. You're simply being pulled into a new frequency of existence, where only truth can follow. The world you built, from expectation, fear, and validation, cannot survive where you're going. So it begins to dissolve, and it hurts. Oh, how it hurts. The chosen one stands there, between two worlds, mourning a life that no longer fits, and afraid of a future they cannot see. But heaven whispers, you are not being abandoned. You are being elevated. The people who are leaving were chapters in your story, not the entire book. They came to teach you, to mirror your growth. And now that your spirit no longer dances to the same music, they fade into memory, with love, not resentment. The fading is not rejection, it is divine redirection, the death of old desires. When a familiar fades, so do your old appetites, the things that once excited you, status, praise, possessions, now feel strangely tasteless. You try to convince yourself that you still want them, but your soul quietly refuses to participate. You scroll through old dreams, like an ancient photo album, and realize that you've outgrown the costume of who you used to be. This is not failure. This is divine detox. Your spirit is being purified of every counterfeit desire that once disguised itself as purpose. The chosen one learns here that fulfillment never lived in the applause, nor in the achievement, but in the quiet communion between you and the one who sent you. When the familiar fades, you begin to see how much of your life was built to please the noise. But when that noise disappears, you finally hear the truth. God was always enough. And so slowly, you release the chase. You stop performing for validation. You stop negotiating with destiny. You fall silent. And in that silence, you discover the sweetness of surrender, the loneliness of separation. This stage is not easy. The chosen one often walks alone through this valley. Friends who once understood you no longer speak your language. Family members look at you as though you've become a stranger. They don't understand why you no longer crave what the world craves. They may call you distant. They may call you strange. Some may even whisper, "You've changed." And they're right. You have. You've changed because your soul has begun to breathe again. But to those still asleep, your awakening looks like madness. They cannot see the light being born within you, so they project their confusion as judgment. This is the loneliness of separation, a sacred space between the old tribe and your divine assignment. Every chosen one must pass through it. Even the prophets did. Even the Christ did. Before resurrection, there is always isolation. Before revelation, there is always rejection. Do not resent it. Let it sanctify you. The silence of being misunderstood is often the loudest proof that heaven has chosen you. The stripping, when the familiar fades, life begins to strip away everything that once defined you. Titles, possessions, reputation, plans, all begin to lose their grip. It feels cruel. It feels unfair. But the stripping is sacred. The divine removes what you thought you needed to show you what you actually are. You were never the title. You were never the success. You were never the role you played. You were always the light behind the role, the eternal flame, wearing temporary forms. The stripping hurts, because identity clings to illusion. But when you stop fighting it, you begin to feel something deeper. Freedom. For the first time, you realize that you can exist without being someone. You can just be pure being, pure presence. And that is the birthplace of awakening. The revelation hidden in loss. As the dust settles and everything familiar continues to fade, something extraordinary begins to happen. You start to notice a subtle peace beneath the chaos, a quiet joy beneath the pain, a strange gratitude. Even in the loss, you begin to see that every person who left was teaching you detachment. Every plan that failed was redirecting you to truth. Every possession that slipped away was clearing space for your soul to breathe. You realize that nothing was ever taken, only transformed, and suddenly you no longer grieve the same way. You begin to whisper thank you, even through your tears, because now you see the divine pattern, that every ending was an initiation into deeper remembrance. The familiar faded, so the eternal could emerge. Chosen one, you're not being punished. You're being purified. The familiar had to fade, so you could awaken to what never fades, the presence of God within you. So as you walk through the valley of isolation, do not despair. The silence you fear is preparing you for the sound of divine remembrance. The loss you grieve is making room for a higher version of you to emerge. Everything that is fading is not being stolen, is being sanctified, for you're not crazy. You are awakening, and when the familiar fades, the eternal begins to rise. Chapter 3. The Madness of Awakening. When the familiar has faded, and silence becomes your only companion, the mind begins to panic. It starts to scream, "Who am I now? What's happening to me? Am I losing myself?" You try to explain it to others, but they cannot understand. Because how do you tell someone that the world they love is starting to look like an illusion to you? You begin to feel detached, as though you're watching life through a thin veil. Everything feels real, yet strangely unreal. You feel more awake than ever, yet completely lost at the same time. This is the shattering, the mind's rebellion against the light that threatens its rule. The ego has spent your whole life convincing you that you are the story, your name, your past, your roles, your dreams. And now the light of God comes to expose the lie. The illusion cannot survive in the presence of truth. So it begins to collapse, and it calls that collapse madness. But chosen one, listen, you are not losing your mind. You are losing your prison. You are not going insane. You are breaking free. The battle between ego and spirit. Inside you, a war begins. Not a war between good and evil, but between the false self and the eternal self. The ego fights for its throne. It whispers that you must rebuild the old world, that you must return to your old roles, that you must make sense of what is happening. But the spirit whispers, "Be still, let the storm do its work." And so you are torn between two voices, the loud one of fear and the quiet one of truth. You begin to oscillate, one moment in peace, the next in panic, one moment feeling divine, the next feeling broken. It feels chaotic, but this is how awakening happens. Heaven does not destroy the false self in one blow. It exposes it layer by layer, until only love remains. This is why you cry without knowing why. This is why memories surface. This is why emotions rise like old ghosts. You thought you buried. They are not returning to torment you. They are returning to be seen and released. The madness you feel is the sound of the old self dying. The peace you glimpse is the birth of your true one. You are being recreated in the image of the divine, the shadow that emerges. When the light intensifies, the shadow can no longer hide. The parts of you you've ignored, the pain, the resentment, the shame, all begin to surface. It feels like regression. It feels like failure. You think, I was healing. Why am I breaking again? But you're not regressing. You are cleansing. You are finally strong enough to face the darkness you once had to suppress to survive. Chosen one, this is what happens. When divine light meets human shadow, it doesn't destroy it. It embraces it, so it can be transformed. You cannot awaken while rejecting the parts of you that still cry for love. So the divine allows your shadow to rise up, trembling and raw, so that you may look it in the eye and say, even you are welcome in the light. This is true awakening, not escape from darkness, but transfiguration through it. The madness you feel is not chaos. It is metamorphosis. The storm is not punishment. It is purification. The voice in the head. At the peak of this stage, you begin to notice the voice in your mind, the constant chatter, the endless judgment, the repeating fears. It talks about you. It talks as you. It argues, it defends, it imagines. But for the first time, you begin to notice something profound. You're not the voice. You are the awareness. Listening to it, you are the silence beneath its noise. And suddenly, you realize the insanity of the world. That most people live their entire lives believing that voice is who they are. But you, chosen one, you are awakening from that spell. And though this realization may shake you to your core, it is the beginning of freedom. When you stop believing every thought, the chains begin to break. When you stop identifying with the story, you begin to awaken to the storyteller, the divine observer within you. That presence, that quiet, watching awareness, is not of this world. It is the breath of God, disguised as you, the fire of transformation. And so, as the battle rages, you are burned, but not destroyed. The fire consumes your attachments, your fears, your illusions, and you are left trembling, empty, transparent. You look at your life and see ashes. Yet in those ashes, something glows, the eternal spark, the part of you that cannot die, cannot be broken, cannot be lost. It was there all along, hidden beneath the noise of identity, waiting for this sacred chaos to burn everything false away. And as you stand there, shaken, confused, yet strangely peaceful, you begin to whisper through the tears, God, if this is madness, then let me never return to sanity, because now you understand. The madness was never the awakening. The madness was the illusion you lived in before. And as that illusion crumbles, you finally taste truth. You finally feel what real peace is. Not comfort, but communion. Not escape, but embodiment. Chosen one, do not fear the madness. It is not the end of you. It is the fire that refines you. You are not falling apart. You are being rearranged according to the original blueprint of your divine design. Let burn. Let it cleanse. Let it reveal. Because soon, very soon, you will rise from these ashes as the one you were always meant to be. Chapter 4. The cocoon, not the prison. There comes a time, chosen one, when you wake up and realize that the path you are walking can no longer be shared by many. The crowds that once surrounded you are gone. The noise that once filled your days has faded. Even the ones you thought would stay forever seem to vanish into distance. At first, the silence terrifies you. You think you've been abandoned. You think you've done something wrong. You ask, God, why have you left me here alone? But the divine whispers, my child, I did not leave you here. I brought you here, for solitude is not exile. It is invitation. You have been called into the wilderness, where your true self can be revealed, without the noise of the world. Every chosen one must pass through this secret season, where the only voice left to hear is the one within. This is where the old you dissolves. This is where the masks fall off. This is where the soul remembers its original name. The alchemy of isolation. In the quiet, something begins to shift. At first, you resist. You fill the silence with distractions. You scroll, you plan, you overthink. But the more you try to escape the stillness, the heavier it pulls you back, until finally, you stop fighting. You sit down, you breathe, and you begin to listen. And it's here, in this isolation, that the alchemy begins. Your wounds rise to the surface. But instead of suppressing them, you start to hold them with compassion. Your fears appear, but instead of running, you face them with love. Your emptiness expands, but instead of rejecting it, you make peace with it. And little by little, the same silence that once felt unbearable becomes sacred. You realize this solitude is not a cage. It's a chrysalis. You are not being buried. You are being transformed, like the caterpillar dissolving, so the butterfly can emerge. You too are dissolving into a higher form of being. This is divine isolation, the process by which heaven rewrites your soul to match your divine assignment. The holy silence. There's a kind of silence that is not empty, but full, so full that you can almost hear the breath of God in it. At first, you mistake it for loneliness, but as your heart adjusts, you begin to realize that this is the language of heaven. God rarely speaks through noise. He speaks through stillness. And in that stillness, you start to hear things you never noticed before: the rhythm of your heartbeat, the pulse of your breath, the whisper that says, "I am." You start to feel presence, not as an idea, but as a living reality, filling your chest with peace. The silence becomes your teacher. It begins to show you that the world outside was only ever a reflection of the world within. And in this realization, a miracle happens. You no longer crave company to feel complete. You begin to enjoy your own presence, because now you know whose presence it truly is. You and God were never separate. You were only distracted. Now, in the holy silence, you are reunited, the voice within the stillness. There is a moment, deep in the cocoon, when you finally hear the voice. Not a voice that speaks in words, but a voice that speaks in knowing. It doesn't command. It doesn't shout. It simply says, "I am here." And in that instant, every cell in your body remembers what home feels like. This is the secret of spiritual isolation. It is the meeting place between the soul and its source. The chosen one learns here that prayer is not always asking. Sometimes it is listening. Sometimes it is silence so deep that you dissolve into it completely and find that you never had to search for God because you are breathing Him all along. This is where tears flow, not from pain, but from remembrance. You realize the truth. That shakes the heavens. I and my Father are one, not in arrogance, but in awareness, not in theory, but in being. This is what isolation was always meant to show you. Not that you are alone, but that you are one. The birth within the cocoon. Time passes differently here. Days feel timeless. Nights feel eternal. You are neither here nor there. No longer who you were, but not yet who you are becoming. And though you cannot see it, something sacred is forming. In the darkness, your vision is sharpening. Your heart is expanding. Your faith is deepening. You are learning to trust without proof, to love without attachment, to believe without seeing. This is the gestation of destiny. This is the hidden construction of divine identity. When the chosen one is ready to emerge, the cocoon will open, not by force, but by timing. For what is born of heaven cannot be rushed. And when you finally rise from this sacred stillness, you will not be the same. The one who entered isolation will not be the one who leaves it. You will be lighter, clearer, freer. You will speak less, but your words will carry truth. You will move slower, but your presence will carry power. You will know God, not as theory, but as your very breath. Chosen one, Do not despise the cocoon. The world will call it loneliness. Heaven calls it transformation. This is not the end of you. This is where eternity begins to bloom inside you. You're not crazy. You are awakening. Isolation is not your prison. It is your passageway into remembrance. And when it is complete, you will emerge radiant, a soul reborn, a light unhidden, a divine one awakened to truth. Chapter 5. God never left you. Chosen one, there was never a day God wasn't with you. Not even in your darkest hour. Not even when you cursed the heavens and wept on the floor. Not even when you begged for a sign and heard only silence. The absence you felt was never the absence of God. It was the absence of noise. It was heaven clearing the channel, so you could hear the still, small voice again. You looked for God in the thunder, but he hid in the whisper. You searched for him in the crowd, but he waited for you in the stillness of your own breath. You thought you were forgotten, but you're being prepared. You thought you were alone, but you're being purified. For how else could you learn that the divine does not live in temples made by hands, but in the sacred temple of your being? And as the illusion fades, you begin to remember. You never had to go looking for God. You only had to stop running from yourself. The whisper in the heart. When you finally become quiet enough, you start to hear the voice that has been speaking all along. It does not sound like thunder, nor command like an army. It feels like a knowing, a soft warmth behind your ribs, a guidance that needs no words. You start to feel led. You start to trust unseen hands. You start to walk by faith, not sight. And every step feels orchestrated. You notice that every delay had purpose. Every heartbreak had teaching. Every silence had meaning. Because the whisper never stopped. You were just tuned to another frequency. The one of fear, of noise, of ego. But now your spirit is recalibrating. You are tuning into the frequency of heaven. And when you listen long enough, you begin to realize this voice is not separate from you. It is you. It is the eternal self, the Christ-conscious spark within, the I am that has never died. God does not speak to you as something distant. He speaks through you as something eternal, the mirror of everything. Once your inner eyes open, you begin to see God everywhere, in the wind brushing against your face, in the morning sun that kisses your skin, in the laughter of a stranger passing by, in the pain that once broke you, in the stillness between your thoughts. It's as if creation itself is whispering, I was never outside of you. You realize the divine isn't hiding in holy buildings or sacred rituals. He's hiding in plain sight, in the ordinariness of your existence. Every sound, every face, every moment becomes a mirror of the infinite. And suddenly, you begin to live differently. You walk slower. You speak softer. You look people in the eye because you see eternity staring back at you. Your prayer changes. It is no longer, God, come to me. It becomes, God, awaken in me. This is the remembrance that heaven was never a place you go to. It's a reality you awaken within. The chosen one's realization. You look back at your old life and realize that everything had been orchestrated for this awakening. Every person who left, every failure that broke you, every detour that confused you, they were all divine choreography, guiding you back to yourself. Because you, chosen one, were never meant to fit in. You were meant to wake up. You are the one who walks through darkness and finds light in the ruins. You are the one who loses everything and discovers what cannot be lost. You are the one who feels forsaken, only to realize you are being fathered by silence itself. The world calls it madness, but heaven calls it awakening. You are not crazy. You are remembering that the divine is not above you, but within you, not beyond the stars, but beating inside your chest. And now you know, you are never alone in the cocoon. You are being wrapped in the wings of God, the breath of presence. Close your eyes. Take a breath. Now notice it, that silent rhythm moving through you. Inhale, exhale. Between those two movements, there is something still, something eternal. That stillness is God. He is not in the future you're chasing, nor the past you regret. He is in this very breath, this sacred now. When you are present, you are in His presence. When you are aware, you are home. Every breath says, I am. Every heartbeat echoes, I am. This is the divine truth that ends the illusion of separation. You and God are one continuous breath, one eternal awareness, expressing itself in form. Chosen one, the awakening is not about becoming something new. It is about remembering what has always been. God never left you. You left your awareness of Him. And now, you are returning. The veil has thinned. The silence is full. The presence is here. You are home. Chapter 6. Becoming the light. When the cocoon breaks, chosen one, it doesn't shatter with noise. It opens with quiet revelation. You step out, not with pride, but with peace. The light you carry now isn't something you found, it's something you became. You used to chase illumination, as if it were somewhere outside you. But now you see, you were the flame all along. The same divine spark that shaped galaxies now burns gently within your chest. The same breath that moved across the waters now moves through your words. You do not need to try to shine. The sun does not strain to rise. It simply is, and so are you. You have become the dawn after the long night. Quiet, pure, undeniable. You do not need to convince anyone of your light. You simply live it, and the world begins to remember its own. The sacred responsibility of the awakened. The chosen one's awakening is never just for themselves. It's a torch meant to light the path for others lost in the dark. You begin to see suffering differently now, not as tragedy, but as unopened portals of consciousness. You no longer run from pain. You meet it with compassion. You no longer condemn those asleep. You love them awake, because you remember what it felt like to live with your eyes closed, to call noise peace, to call numbness happiness, to call illusion truth. And so you walk gently among the world, not as a savior, but as a mirror. Your presence itself becomes a sermon. Your silence becomes a sanctuary. Your words become medicine. For those who meet you now, feel something shift. They may not know why, but they feel home. That is the essence of divine embodiment. You don't have to try to heal the world. You simply live in alignment with truth, and the world begins to heal around you. The humility of light. Chosen one, remember this truth. The brighter the light, the deeper the humility. For awakening does not make you above others. It makes you more available to love them. You see now that all of humanity is walking the same path, just in different stages of remembering. You are no longer offended by darkness. You see it as light still sleeping. You no longer crave recognition, for your reward is in the stillness itself. You no longer cling to titles or stories, for you've seen beyond them. You no longer demand understanding, for you have learned that truth needs no defense. The awakened do not boast of their awakening. They bow to the one who awakened them. They live quietly, serving silently, loving without condition, because they have seen what God sees. And what does God see? Only Himself, reflected in all things, living as the presence. There comes a point when your awareness deepens so much that life itself becomes prayer. You eat, and it is prayer. You walk, and it is prayer. You speak, and your words become light woven into air. You're no longer doing spirituality. You're being spirit. No more chasing moments of peace. You are the peace. No more searching for signs. You are the sign. Every movement, every breath, every encounter is infused with the awareness of the one within you. When people ask how you remain so calm in chaos, you smile because you remember There is no chaos where you dwell. You are seated in heavenly places. Even as your feet touch the earth, the storm no longer shakes you, because you've realized you are not the boat. You are the ocean. This is divine embodiment. When the chosen one ceases to seek and begins to radiate, the light that guides others home. Now, everywhere you go, you leave trails of remembrance. You may not speak much, but your presence carries truth. You may not know who is watching, but your energy whispers, there is more than this world. This is how God moves through you, not through grandeur, but through grace. When you look into someone's eyes, your spirit speaks. I see you. I know you. You are not lost. And even if they cannot name it, something inside them stirs. That is the light working. That is heaven touching earth through you. For the chosen ones are not meant to escape the world. They are meant to illuminate it. They're the quiet lighthouses on dark shores, the living parables of divine remembrance. And though the world may never understand them, the heavens rejoice over them, because they have fulfilled the sacred command. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works, and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Matthew chapter 5, verse 16. The radiance within all things. As your awareness deepens, you begin to feel it everywhere. The same current that flows through you flows through everyone. The same breath that moves the trees moves your chest. The same light that shines in the stars burns behind your eyes, and so you stop dividing the world. There is no sacred or profane, no holy or unholy. Everything is drenched in the same divine light. The awakened do not escape reality. They see God within it. You begin to walk through life like a silent psalm, seeing beauty where others see chaos, seeing lessons where others see loss, seeing unity where others see separation. This is what it means to become the light. You no longer look for God. You see Him in everything. You no longer pray for peace. You live as peace. And when you look back at your journey, you realize that the isolation, the pain, the silence, they were all parts of this birth. You have not been broken. You have been hollowed, so the light could fill you completely. Chosen one, you have become what you were searching for. You are not walking toward the light. You are walking as the light. Your life now is the living evidence. That awakening is not an escape from the human experience, but it's fulfillment. This is your divine identity. This is your purpose. This is your peace. Chapter 7. The Return, Living as the Chosen One. Every awakening ends not in escape, but in return. The Chosen One does not vanish into the clouds. They come back to earth, eyes opened, heart purified, soul anchored in the divine. You are now walking among the same people, but you see them differently. You are surrounded by the same world, but it glows with new light. You used to see separation. Now you see reflection. You used to seek validation. Now you stand in stillness. You used to chase meaning. Now, meaning radiates from you. This is what the Masters called rebirth. Not a new body, but a new vision. You have seen the illusion for what it is. You have touched the real. And now, your soul lives in two worlds at once. Rooted in heaven, moving through earth. You are in the world, but no longer of it. You live from presence, not from story. And this is the true sign of the chosen one. They return not as preachers, but as peace, the integration of heaven and earth. Chosen one, awakening was never meant to pull you away from life. It was meant to teach you how to live it fully. You have learned to see God in silence. Now you will see Him in action. You will find the sacred in every mundane task, the holy in every heartbeat, the eternal in every fleeting moment. You will make tea with awareness. Listen to others with compassion. Walk with grace. This is how heaven expresses itself on earth, not in miracles that define nature, but in hearts that embody divine nature. You no longer pray for light to come down. You become the bridge that carries it. Your body is the temple. Your breath is the incense. Your actions are the offerings. Your life itself is the altar. And everywhere you go, divinity follows, because you have remembered. You and God are not two. The eternal now moves through your form, like sunlight through glass. Clear, luminous, effortless. The quiet power of the chosen one. You may walk among people who will not understand. You may still face storms, still feel pain, still encounter shadows, but you will not be shaken, for you have seen the source of light. You know where your peace flows from. You have learned that real strength is not loud or forceful, but rooted in silence. When others panic, you breathe. When others hate, you love. When others rush, you wait. Your presence itself becomes stability, a reminder that heaven has not abandoned this world. And even when your path feels lonely again, you no longer mistake it for loss. You know solitude is not emptiness. It's divine companionship in disguise. You have become a guardian of light, a quiet flame in a world that forgets its fire. And though few may notice, the heavens take note, because your existence itself is a living prayer, the full circle of awakening. The truth is chosen one. The isolation was initiation. The silence was training. The emptiness was purification. Everything you lost was making space for what was eternal. And now, you walk not with answers, but with awareness, not with fear, but with faith, not with pride, but with peace. You no longer cling to life. You flow with it. You no longer chase your destiny. You embody it. You no longer search for God. You live as the proof of God. And when people ask, "What happened to you?" you smile and say, "I remembered who I am." Because that's what awakening truly is. Not becoming something else, but returning to what has always been true. You're not crazy. You are awakening. You are not lost. You are being found. You are not isolated. You are being initiated. This was never the end. It was the beginning. Take a deep breath, chosen one. Place your hand upon your heart and remember this truth. I'm not separate from God. I am one with the source of all creation. I am light in human form, love wearing a name, divinity remembering itself. Say this within you, not as a mantra of hope, but as a declaration of remembrance. I am the chosen one. I am the one who was lost and is now found. I am not crazy. I am awakening. I am not alone. I am being guided. I am not broken. I am being reborn. Let these words echo through your being. Let them dissolve every trace of doubt. Let them remind you that everything you went through was heaven's call, not your failure. You are not being destroyed. You are being refined. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. The storm was never to drown you. It was to wash away what was not you. And now you stand, clear, awake, radiant, a living witness of divine remembrance. You are the light the darkness could not swallow. You are the seed that broke open to bloom. You are the chosen one, called not to escape this world, but to illuminate it. Chosen one, walk gently now. You are carrying eternity in your steps. Speak softly. Your words carry the sound of God. Love deeply. Your heart beats with the rhythm of heaven. And remember, when all else fades, when noise returns, when silence stretches again, God has never left you. He lives through you. He breathes as you. He shines within you. You are never crazy. You were chosen to awaken.